Hi, I'm Alec,
I'm Charlie.
I'm Cora.
and in this presentation, we'll be looking at modeling obesity rates in the United States, and we'll be trying to determine the factors that best predict obesity rate at the county level. All right, so to give a little bit of background on obesity, in recent decades, obesity levels in the United States have reached epidemic proportions, and more than one-third, or 36.5% of adults, are obese, as reported by the CDC. Furthermore, the United States has the highest obesity rate in the developed world. So why do we care about obesity? So obesity itself is a risk factor for a wide array of diseases, such as type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and cancer. Thus, it's important to understand its causes and combat obesity at its sources in order to promote the health and the well-being of the American people. Here we have a map of the most recent county-level obesity rate data from 2013. As we can see, obesity rates aren't consistent across the United States, and there's quite a bit of geographic variability. For example, there's over a 35 percentage point difference between the lowest county obesity rate of 11.8% and the highest of 47.6%. And we can see that there are much higher rates in regions such as the Deep South and lower rates in specific states such as Colorado. Additionally, as seen in this map of change in obesity rates from 2008 to 2013, we can see that in many parts of the country, obesity rates have gotten worse, while in some places, obesity rates have gone down slightly. Overall, though, it seems that obesity rates are going up in most places in the country, and at most, county obesity rates have only decreased maximally by 6.9 percentage points, while on the other hand, obesity rates at the county level have increased with a maximum of 13 percentage points. Together, these maps made us think about different factors that may be influencing obesity rates at the county level, such as socioeconomic and demographic factors, which vary geographically across the United States, leading us to ask, which of these factors may be the best predictors of obesity rates in the United States?
Although rates of obesity have increased across the United States among people of all ethnic and racial groups, some groups are disproportionately affected. The 2011 and 2012 State of Obesity Annual Report shows that among U.S. adults, Black and Latino populations have substantially higher rates of obesity, by 12.9 and 7.6% respectively, than do white populations. This is true among both men and women. Aside from race and ethnicity, we found several other variables whose relationship against obesity rate has been studied. Government-funded nutrition programs are often implemented to help low-income households. Two major programs are WIC and SNAP, the state-run and federally run assistance programs that help low-income households purchase food by providing vouchers that allow them to redeem foods from any WIC or SNAP authorized stores. Previous literature has found that these programs have a positive relationship with obesity rates. DeBono et al. Finds that these programs cause increases in obesity rates, yet as an unintended consequence. This effect is amplified for women, often because they are long-term users of these programs.
Studies have also shown that farmers market and grocery stores are associated with obesity rate. Joe Cott et al. Study in 2011 has shown that in the United States, farmers market and grocery stores per capita are inversely related to the rate of obesity. Balak et al. 2016 also mentioned that minority communities, such as African American community, usually has less access to healthy food as opposed to non-minority communities. Another related factor is restaurant. Studies have shown that number of restaurants is negatively correlated with obesity rate. Mazzidi and Speakman 2017 reasoned that restaurants tend to congregate in areas where residents are wealthier and more educated. In fact, when socioeconomic status is adjusted, the main effect of restaurants disappears. Lastly, there's evidence on the relationship between recreational facilities and obesity rate. An article from the Rural Health Information Hub claimed that rural communities are more likely to be afflicted with higher obesity rate than urban areas because they are in scarcity of parks, recreational areas, sidewalk, bike trails, and exercise facilities that promote physical activities.
We gathered the raw data from two major sites. We sourced adult obesity rate, variables related to demographic distributions, income indicators, nutrition program enrollments, access to restaurants, farmers markets and grocery stores, and recreational facilities from the USDA Food Environment Atlas. We also sourced the Housing Price Index from the Federal Housing Finance Agency. We secured the years 2008 to 2013 due to data availability of obesity rate and other variables at the county level. Based on the rationale, we picked variables that are theoretically related to obesity rates, including 22 variables. In the years 2008 to 2013, we are left with 20,503 observations. 25% of data points are withheld for cross-validation purposes, which is 5,126 observations, leaving us with 15,377 observations. We plotted scatter points of each variable against obesity rate and checked if the relationship is linear. If not, logarithmic, square root, and quadratic transformations are performed to gain a better fit. Finally, using 11,010 observations, we constructed a multiple regression model to predict the obesity rate at the county level, and cross-validated our model using the withheld data on 3,933 observations. Observations with missing data are omitted. Based on the theoretical background and yearly data availability at the county level, we finalized our variable selection listed here.
Then, we use stepwise regression to pick transformations out of the group and use best subset analysis to finalize this model. In our model of best fit, we included 8 variables and 3 interaction terms to predict adult obesity rate. The 8 variables are housing price index, natural log of SNAP benefit per capita, square root of full service restaurant per 1,000 population, percentage Hispanic, square root of percentage Asian, percentage white, child poverty rate, and median household income. And the 3 interaction terms are housing price index and natural log of full service restaurant, housing price index, and square root of percentage Asian, as well as child poverty rate and square root of percentage Asian. These interaction terms indicate that in predicting obesity rate, the level of housing price index is associated with percentage Asian and number of full service restaurants per 1,000. Child poverty rate is associated with percentage Asian. Using 75% of data points in training dataset to build a model, our final model shows an R-square of 64.06%, which means our model explains around 64% of variance in adult obesity rate. Cross-validation on the 25% withheld data, which is also called the test data, showed an R-square value of 65.05%. Our model explains around 65% of variance in adult obesity rate in the withheld data. Given the similar R-squares generated from the training data and the test data, we can conclude that our model is not overfitted. The predictive ability of our model is consistent across datasets. The 3 strongest predictors in our model are housing price index, child poverty rate, and natural log SNAP benefit per capita. In the scatter plots, they show relatively random pattern against adult obesity rate. Each individual variables purely explain over 30% of R-square in predicting obesity rate. And when they add up, they explain 50.2% of variance in adult obesity rate. Housing price index and child poverty rate are intrinsically tied to income, and given that SNAP is a federally run program that helps low-income families purchase food, we found that all 3 strongest predictors of obesity rate are related to income in some ways.
Here we have mapped the county-level residuals of our training dataset to visualize which counties best fit our model and which counties do not fit our model as well. For the most part, the counties used in our training dataset, which represent 83.59% of all counties in the U.S., seem to fit our model well in moderately populated regions of the country. Though our model seems to have trouble with less populated western states, especially Colorado, which has the lowest obesity rate in the U.S. As you can see by the dark red coloring, our model significantly overpredicted obesity rates for the state, meaning that we're probably missing a factor in our model that may explain the lower obesity rates. Given that Colorado is known for its wide offering of physical activities and exercise opportunities, it is possible that this has to do partially with physical fitness. Additionally, the discrepancy we see across all rural states may be in part explained by the fact that we have a good band of missing data for a fairly sparsely populated central region of the country, shown here by a gray county color. And thus, our model may just be better trained for more populated regions of the country. Furthermore, variables used in our model, such as full-service restaurants per 1,000 residents, are easily inflated in counties with populations under 1,000 people, and may additionally be contributing to the low fit in a very sparsely populated county. As you can see in this map, which plots our residuals for our model when applied to our test cross-validation dataset, which includes 25% of our total data and covers 67.11% of counties in the United States, we get very similar patterns. But it is interesting to point out that our maximum absolute residual is actually lower for this dataset than in our training dataset, and that again, our R-squared value is slightly higher for our test data set, indicating that our model is fairly robust.
So overall, we found several categories that predicts obesity rate, including socioeconomic and demographic inequities, participation in nutrition programs, child poverty rate, and number of restaurants. Farmers market is not included in the model. We performed a correlation matrix to check on covariance between variables and found that farmers market largely covariates with housing price index. Therefore, only housing price index appeared in our model. Recreational facilities did not fit into our model as well. A potential reason is that recreational facilities do not necessarily capture physical activities across the country. In some states, ideal environments that promote physical activity can be provided without recreational facilities. Our study is potentially beneficial for policymakers in terms of helping them determine what to spend money on. For example, building more subsidized restaurants might help people from suburb area get more nutritive food. More importantly, policies that target socioeconomic inequities, such as reducing house price inequities and income inequities, might be helpful in reducing obesity rate overall.
There are a few limitations in our prediction. Due to missing data, we could only analyze years 2008 to 2013. As well, our model likely suffers from omitted variable bias as a result of lacking data availability. Finally, we are limited to analyzing demographic data due to the setup of the census. Percentage Hispanic groups everyone who identifies as Hispanic or of Hispanic descent together, regardless of racial or ethnic background. Future research should discuss why certain counties have high residuals. For example, we would potentially perform a better prediction for mountain areas, such as Colorado, if geographic environment and physical activities are taken into consideration. As well, future studies could also focus on the differences between urban and rural counties, genders, and child versus adult obesity rates. Finally, long-term effects of the nutrition program should be carefully determined. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this presentation.